All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Dumb and Delicious, your podcast hosted by Gaetano Piratori, Jack Hamilton. I am Jack Hamilton, and Gaetano is not here today because of schedule overlaps, and we were trying to record last Thursday, but I was working on the project, so we couldn't make it. So I was like, hey, you know what, man? I'll post a solo episode. And this is take 3 of me trying to do this because I cannot stay focused at all. I literally recorded probably about 2 5-minute, 7-minute episodes so far where my brain just went fucking haywire. So I don't know I think I'm just sweating like crazy. It's hot in my room. I haven't done a solo episode in a while. And initially, I'm not going to lie, I had no idea what to talk about. So I was like, I'll just press the record button and go with it and see what happens. And I'll tell you that wasn't a good idea. But I landed on a track that I did like. So we're going to go and we're going to discuss that. And I'm going to have like a solid idea of where to start with. And then I'll probably spin it into my own thing afterwards. And you'll probably be able to tell where I go off the rails. Anyways, back to the typical podcast thing. Quick check-in with myself. I'm doing okay. School's coming up. Like the end of school is coming up. So shit's getting pretty intense, getting pretty heavy. And, just taking it day by day, step by step, working on a group project right now. It is due in 12 hours, and not nobody. The one partner that I'm working with, some random person that my professor put me with, because my lazy ass didn't go to the group making meeting or whatever. So that was my mistake, but my partner has yet to even do anything for the assignment. So I'm debating just submitting whatever I did on my own. And just seeing what happens, because I'm getting a little scared, but I'm also not doing the rest of the assignment by myself, because I'm going to be up until fucking 4 o'clock in the morning, and I don't want to do that. It's also 10 p.m. right now. It's pretty late. I've been doing homework all day. I've done my component. I've done everything for the day. Actually, I do have a little bit of a calculus assignment left to do, which I just remembered about, and I'm very sad, but I'll figure that out after the episode. Anyways, I posted something on my story to ask questions where it was like, anyone have any ideas of what I should talk about? But due to poor planning and being very lazy, I completely forgot to do that until about 30 minutes ago before I started recording. So I only have 2 responses. And first one's from Farzana, where she is asking me if I should do a UTM edition, or asked if I could do a UTM edition, because I was like, what topic should I do? And to be honest, I don't really know what I would include in a UTM edition, because I don't really do anything interesting on campus. The people I hang out with are fucking weirdos in like the best fucking way possible. I love them. They're all amazing. But we spend most of our time just chatting shit and just talking about completely just fucking stupid things. So not really sure how I could spin that to an episode. I think if I did a UTM episode, it would probably turn more into like a funny moments compilation. Because that's really the only way to describe my social circle at UTM. And then Hygriva asked if I could release a cut episode, and I do not think that's a good idea, because the cut episodes are cut for a reason. Whether that's Gaetano and I got too hammered and nothing was coherent, it was boring as fuck, or just didn't really make sense and it was just not a quality episode. So cut episodes are cut for a reason. Sorry about that one. Maybe one day, I feel like maybe one day Guy and I can go back and like take clips of like all the cut episodes and be like, I don't know, like a bloopers episode maybe. But I feel like that would do better as a YouTube video, but we don't really take video components of the podcast. I mean, we typically have each other on we hop on like our cameras, our webcams, whatever. I don't know, turn on the FaceTime or something like that, except through Discord. I'm blanking. I'm blanking right now. My brain is so cooked from doing homework all day, so I just do not have the mental capacity for any of that right now. But yeah, you know what I mean. Anyways, I'm already going off the rails, like I said earlier. So, I was going to talk about my ideas of this naturalist lifestyle that I've been obsessed with for about 2 weeks now. And I don't mean naturalist as in like eating plants and moss to cure sickness and living in a mud hut in the middle of nowhere. I mean, like, living in Alaska, living in Montana, hunting, living on a ranch. That just, I don't know, not being, better way to put it, being separated from like the whole urban city lifestyle, because I don't know. The whole city thing is just, it ain't for me. It ain't for me. I don't know. When I grow up and when I make like, when I make money, I'm probably going to want to live in a ranch in the middle of nowhere where I can just do my thing, because that seems more interesting than living in a stinky city with city stink and ambulances and cop cars and people screaming all the time and robberies and just, you know what? None of that sounds good to you, I'm sure. So now you see where I'm coming from. Anyways, what I was talking about in the last cut, or what I started to talk about, was a Joe Rogan podcast that I listened to, and it's episode 1395 with Glenn Villeneuve. I highly recommend listening to it. It's 3 hours and 12 minutes long, and it's basically about this guy who, when he was 13, quit school, or dropped out of school. I don't know if you can call that dropping out when you're 13, whatever you want to call that. I just realized I don't have any water, and my mouth is going to be so dry by the end of this episode, so I might take a water break. But you guys won't know, because hopefully my sick editing skills will be good enough for you to not be able to tell, because Gaetano's not editing this episode. I am, and I suck at editing, so we'll find out. Anyways, this episode with Glenn Villeneuve is about this guy. He's 13 years old, dropped out of school, and he started living, like, just living his own way. He wanted to do life his way. So, like, he was, like, hiking across different states, going on trips through, like, mountains and trails, all, like, a super young age, all on his own. And would just fuck it up, you know? Get out there, get in the wild, and just enjoy it. And I was always like, the one thing I miss the most, because I used to live in London, Ontario growing up, and it wasn't really too developed back then, so it was like, just like forests everywhere. And I spent my entire childhood running around in forests, catching frogs, building tree forts, building forts out in the forest, trying to catch fish with my hands in streams. There's actually this I completely forgot about it until now. There's this really cool place in the forest near my house where it was like, and I'm sure none of my buddies from London that I grew up with are even aware that I have a podcast. I don't really keep in touch with them anymore. Like, I follow them on Instagram, so they probably see me advertising on my story. But Ben and Christian were my homies way back in the day, and we lived in the same neighborhood, and we used to always go out in the forest. And there was this one really cool area where it was like, you'd go down through the forest and you'd have typical foresty things. And then there's like one area in like deep in the forest where it was like an open plains. And it was like this massive tree in the middle of the, like, huge, absolutely monster tree in the middle of this plains in the middle of a forest, which is like super odd. I don't know if I'm just like, if it's like childhood scaling. Cause like, you know, when you're like younger and you're like, oh my God, chicken nuggets are huge, and then you go get chicken nuggets now and you're like, what the fuck, why are they so tiny? You know what I mean? I don't know if it's like one of those deals, but I just remember it being super cool. And there was always like wild cats that hung out around there, and I don't mean like wild cats as in wild house cats. I mean like bobcats and stuff, or like, I don't know if it is a bobcat, just like bigger wild cats. And you used to see coyotes there all the time. It was just like, I don't know, animals used to always hang out around the street, and it was just super odd. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, so now this is the part where I'm getting off the rails, because this wasn't originally in the plot points I wanted to discuss. Anyways, I've always like missed that, because I loved it so much when I was younger, and living in like the GTA now, it's kind of like I don't really have access to that anymore. And if I could, I'd fucking, oh my God, I'd spend so much time out in the forest still. Like whenever I go to my cottage, love going out on walks through different trails and stuff, and just spending time just outside doing that sort of thing. Like whenever like my grandparents have a farm not too far from my cottage, and on the back of their lot, it's like super deep forest. So literally every time I go to my grandparents' place for dinner, before dinner or right after dinner or something, I'll always hop on the ATV with like my brother or my cousin or something, and we'll fly out to the back of the lot and bring like a hunting knife and a water bottle or whatever, and just like, I don't know, go out and just wander around the forest and enjoy the natural beauty of the planet, I guess. So this guy basically has been doing that his entire life, and like I love the idea of it. So everyone gets YouTube, like everyone knows, I've mentioned it multiple times, I'm not a TikTok guy. I get a lot of YouTube shorts, big YouTube shorts guy, make fun of me, whatever the fuck you want. And I get a lot of Joe Rogan shorts, and I always see shorts of like this one guy, the guy Glenn Villeneuve, talking about all the crazy shit he's done living so far disconnected from like cities and like developed areas. And it's like, holy shit. So I went back, I listened to it, I'm like, this is like everything I would love to try and do. Although I know city boy, I'd probably get fucking absolutely dumpstered by a black bear or something out in the middle of the forest. But yeah, just the idea of it's so cool. And he just talks about like how he lives like, I think it's like 70 miles from the nearest road in going out into a Alaskan forest, Alaskan wild. And just like all the crazy shit he's done. Like he lives, he was telling the story about how he actually has beef with like a pack of wolves near his place. And how like one time he was out ice fishing and he saw like a pack of like the pack of the wolves that he was beefing with or whatever. And there's like 20 of them and they're like crossing this frozen lake and they start coming at him. So he's like sprinting back to his cottage or his cabin or whatever. And he grabs his rifle and he's like shooting off at them as they're like running towards his cabin. And it's like, what the fuck? I'm not talking about the idea of naturalist lifestyles, me shooting wolves. No, just like this, just the crazy, crazy stories. And this guy talks about like hunting caribou and moose and all that. And he's like, yeah, he's like, when you hunt something that big up there, it's like none of it goes to waste. And because everything is like so, I don't know how to say it, like clean and natural out there, it's like you can literally consume every single aspect of like big game. And he's like, he's even talked about like eating the stomach contents of big game because it's natural and fresh and clean. It's like you can eat it because like if you're gonna eat the moose, why not eat what the moose ate? He doesn't do it for fun, but in a survival situation, he has done that. Which is like, I'm not saying that it's what I want to do, but just hearing about that stuff is just, it's so fucking fascinating. And I don't know, like I've always wanted to kind of like build a cabin or build like a little cottage up in the middle of like buttfuck nowhere and just do my own thing, although I feel like the idea of it is better than what it would actually be in practice. But just, I don't know. I find that stuff absolutely fascinating. And another like big idea, I feel like this episode's probably just going to be me talking about my like 60-year-old or 50-year-old Jack fantasies of like me wanting to be a cowboy or live in the fucking Arctic hunting polar bears or I don't know. And I also didn't just say cowboy for no reason. And that's the next thing I'm about to talk about. I've had like these ideas where it's like when I get old, when I hit like 50 years old, or if I just cannot manage to make it in any aspect of my life, like there's like 3 routes I want to take. The first one was that Alaska naturalist route, because that would be pretty cool, although I do not think it's the most doable, the most viable. The second one, and if you're from UTM, you've definitely heard me talking about this one quite a bit, is my cowboy dream. So, okay, this is gonna sound so bad, but I do not know how to say it, and it's gonna just sound not good, segueing of what I just said about my cowboy dream. But I was listening to another Joe Rogan podcast, and they were basically talking about the history of Texas, because Joe Rogan was like, "Oh, Texas is so awesome." He's like, he just learned about the history of it, and I'm like, "What do you mean, history of Texas?" So I researched myself the history of Texas, between the war between like the natives on Texas, like the natives of before Texas was established on that land, the Comanches, and the Texas Rangers, like going to war and fighting over the land. And I was like, "Holy shit, that is fucking crazy." And then I started watching a few shows about cowboys and all that kind of stuff. And then I was like, know what else would be really cool? Like, okay, pause for a sec. Not doing all that. That's not cool. What's cool is owning a ranch, like I said earlier, in like Montana or something. Because like, I don't know, like I said before, just not wanting to be connected to cities. Not wanting to be connected, but being distant from cities is kind of like what I want to go for. I don't really want to be too developed areas. I like natural, I like free space, I like all the land I can get, and just doing my own thing, far away from everybody else is kind of what I'm going for. I know that doesn't necessarily sound too good, talking about getting on the land I can get and being far away from everyone. It sounds like some psychopath thing, but that's like, you know what I mean, just like living far away, self-sustaining, not on my own, obviously with family, with a career where I'm going to be working nearby. I want to become a doctor, so a hospital nearby. But like, ideally, emergency medicine at a local little clinic or something. You know what I mean? In the middle of nowhere. That seems ideal to me. That's the kind of lifestyle I'm aiming for. And before, when I was younger, I was always like, I want to buy all these cars. I want to live in a penthouse in a big city and all that crazy stuff. And that is not what I'm aiming for. Anyways, back to my ideas of what my lifestyle is hopefully going to look like when I make it. But yeah, no, those just looking for like I don't know why. Just the idea of living on a ranch in Montana is the coolest fucking thing on the planet to me. Or living in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. But that involves having money of sorts. And if I cannot even get money, then I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna do that. So then I was thinking, I don't know who. I think I might have been sitting with. Who was I sitting with? I think I was actually sitting with Farzana when I was talking about this. If literally nothing goes according to plan, I always thought about owning like a farm would be pretty dope. And when I say own a ranch in Montana, I don't mean run a farm and be a doctor. I mean like just have that large property where I can camp on my own property, hunt on my own property, maybe have like a couple sheep or something. Honestly, I don't know. But if it's the farming route, I always like the ideal was like go to like New Zealand or something, just like very, very far away. Although I don't know if that's realistic at all or not. I don't know what's required to just pack up and move to another country and start a farm there. Although someone was raining on my parade telling me that they passed some laws in New Zealand that it's like ruined the farming industry there. And I don't mean like, I don't want to have like a massive industrial agriculture farm where I'm growing kilometers and kilometers of soybeans and selling them. Like that's not what I'm looking for. I'm talking 12 chickens, 4 cows, 3 sheep, 2 pigs, and maybe a goat is what I'm going for. And then a dog or 5 dogs. I think I'm just super delusional, but just let me cook here for a minute, okay? New Zealand is also conveniently where the greatest trilogy in history was recorded, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, stop listening to this episode. I'm joking. You should download the episode. The greatest trilogy I'm talking about is Lord of the Rings. And I don't care who I am engaged to. I don't know what their idea of a honeymoon is, but my idea of a perfect honeymoon is doing the Lord of the Rings tour in New Zealand, so I'm going to be going at some point, whether that's me opening up my farm there or going on that tour when I get married and I force my significant other to tag along on this journey through the Middle Earth after we're married. Anyways, it's kind of crazy how like I went from wanting to become an astronaut and wanting to be frozen for like the next 1,000 years and sent into space and then be found by aliens to wanting to just have to settle on a farm and raise sheep or live on a ranch in Montana or live in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. I don't know, that stuff, it's always just fascinated me, and I feel like that definitely tells some sort of like, or it doesn't tell, but like it kind of like shows what kind of mental I have going on. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's just me looking for something more than what I'm currently doing, because school's awesome and I want to become a doctor, and I'm going to stop at nothing to become a doctor. And everyone I know, if you're one of my friends, if you know me at all, you know that I'm not going to stop at nothing to become a doctor. I may lose track of my goals every once in a while, or lose track of my vision if I just get down to the dumps, but at the end of the day, I know it's what I want, and I'm gonna get there no matter what. But just, I don't know. I feel like just getting out there and just trying something new entirely is what I'm looking for. And I think that's something I'm gonna try and visit when I graduate. Because I don't know if I've explained it on the podcast before, but okay, now we're gonna officially move past my future fantasies, because I feel like you've had enough of that bullshit, and we're gonna go back to the classic Jack. I actually sat down with my parents not too long ago and laid out like the next 2-year plan for me getting into med school and how that's going to go down. And part of that involves me skipping the current application period, which is already passed, and applying next cycle. So I'm going to graduate. This is my last year of schooling. I'm going to be done in April. I'm going to graduate in June. And the next cycle is until next October. And then I have to take a full year until I'll actually start med school when I get in. So I'm going to have like about a year and a half off where I'm not actually going to be, actually no, just over a year I think, where I'm not going to be in school, and I'm going to try and work full time. I'm going to try and find research positions and volunteering. Trying to work on different publications. It's part of my plan. I think I maybe discussed it, but if I haven't, that's kind of like the short-term thing. And during that time, I also want to try and, explore the world. I know everyone does that when they graduate. It's like, oh, I'm going to go on a world tour. I'm going to backpack Europe, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not, sorry, that voice sounded like I was making fun of or mocking. I'm not. That is something I would also love to do. So part of me, I think getting out there and seeing the world and experiencing something new is going to come after graduation. And I'm very excited for it. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'm going to do something, and I'm going to not do it by myself. I'm going to bring my brother. I'm going to bring, maybe friends, my cousins, maybe. Who knows? I'll figure it out when I get there. But I was actually talking with one of my friends, and we were just talking. I literally basically discussed everything I've said in the past 20 minutes about my future and all these ideas I have. And they said something that actually kind of spooked me, and it was, well, what if you do all that and you really enjoy it and you don't want to come back? It's like, at that point, what's the decision you make? You know what I mean? And I feel like that's not something I can actually answer right now, and I feel like that's not something a lot of people can just answer spontaneously, because, like, what do you do if you get to that point? You've done all this to achieve your goal, and now you're still working towards it, but you're taking a little detour for 3-4 months to go and try something new. And it's like, if you really like that something new, like, what happens if you just stick with it? Like, what if I end up like one of the dudes who goes spearfishing in Bali and like catches fish and trades it to locals for other fish and lives in a houseboat? I don't know. Honestly, I think I've flown so far off the tracks with this episode that I'm just going to try and spin everything I said into a conclusion and wrap it up. So yeah, I don't know. They mentioned that I should, or not that I should, but if that is something that would happen, like, what would I do? And to be honest, I'm not quite sure what I would do. I think I'd try it for a little while, because the credentials you have for med school are pretty much not permanent, but they're, what's the word I'm looking for? Not relative, not valuable. They are valid for, like, I think, like, your MCAT score can be, like, valid for like 3 years, and your education can be valid for like 7 or something like that. I don't know, but it can last a while. So I think if I disappear one day, I'm probably in Bali spearfishing, I'm in Alaska hunting bears or caribou, or I'm living out my cowboy dream in Montana on a ranch somewhere, or I'm in New Zealand raising my sheep. Anyways, I'm just going to call it wraps there, because this has been an absolute fucking chaotic episode of my mind just blowing up into a microphone for probably about 23 minutes and 23 seconds. So, you might not see the 23 minutes, 23 seconds. I'm going to chop it up, do some hardcore editing skills to get this out there and make it as beautiful for your ears. Hopefully. Alright, I'm going to call it. I'm going to keep rambling on. Anyways, thank you all for listening to another episode of Dumb and Delicious, solo episode by Jack. Hopefully you didn't miss Guy too much. I know I definitely did. I don't really know the whole segment about what platforms we're on. I'm going to sell myself out right now and say that. So I'm going to take a solid attempt at getting them out there. If you haven't heard us anywhere else, and wherever you're listening to us right now, you can check us out on the following platforms: Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, and GeoSavant. GeoSavin? I don't know. Hopefully that was good enough, but I know for sure my part. And if you haven't caught us on any of our social media, you can find us on Instagram at Dumb and Delicious. I'm logged out of the account. And our personals are linked in the bio if you want to reach out to us there. Feel free to send us any topics you want to hear us talk about, any questions you want us to hear us answer, or any criticism to make this a better experience for you guys. And if you haven't yet, download the episode. It's the best way to support us. #1 guy. Anyways, thank you all for listening to another episode of the Dumb and Delicious podcast, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.